How you doing? Are you staying out of trouble? That's the question.
Everyone will take their seat. We'll bring the meeting to order.
Hey, honey bunny, I know you're eating. Go ahead and we'll talk later.
Pay your damn road. Do you know what I mean?
It's hard. I mean, we can't.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Space Coast TPO Governing Board, and today is July 11th, 2024, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Medina must not be here.
Hoorah!
Okay, thank you. Now we can start. Okay, public comment. Members of the public are invited to offer general comments unrelated to agenda items. Public comments related to agenda items will be heard following staff presentation of the item. Do we have any public comments? Zoe, do we have any cards? Non-agenda items. All right, we'll start off then with, I'm sorry, Zoe, would you please conduct a roll call?
Okay. I'm going to give just 1 minute. Let these people get seated.
There's Medina. There he is, my man. With the nice haircut.
We do have the same barber, don't we?
Absolutely. Great minds think alike, sir.
Okay. Okay. Allender,
Thank you, Mimi, for everything. To your right. Sorry.
Blake,
Present.
Cole,
Present.
Felix, Feltner,
Here.
Forrester,
Here.
Glass, Goodson, Hanley,
Here.
Johnson, Kennedy, Medina, Minus, Pritchett,
Land swap.
Where is it?
Robinson,
Land swap.
Steele,
I'll talk to you about it after.
Tobiah, Williams, Young.
Here.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Zoe. We've already done public comment. We'll just go right to reports. Georgiana.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's really great to see all the members today. I just have one item to bring to your attention. In early June, Smart Growth America released its latest Dangerous by Design report, which lists the most dangerous metro areas in America for pedestrians. And of course, Shelby took a deep dive into the report and found that our metropolitan area, which is, Palm Bay, Melbourne, and Titusville, is one of only 2 areas that actually saw a decrease in the percentage of pedestrian deaths per 100,000 people. And so for us, this is due to 1 less fatality in the report period. So basically 106 people died between 2018 and 2022, the 5-year period, compared to 107 people dying between 2013 and 2017.
Wow.
So despite the decrease, our area moved from number 12 to number 11. And of course, fast-growing metro areas in the South and the Sun Belt are still the deadliest. So pedestrian deaths in these places are either keeping pace with population growth or far outpacing it. And of course, Florida still dominates, the top 20 with 8 spots. Only 18 of the 101 largest metro areas had a long-term trend of decreasing fatality rates, but only 2 of those metro areas are in the top 20, and of course that's our area and Jacksonville. So the other 16 metro areas were already far less deadly. So, this really kind of comes on the heels, of our Florida Today did a transportation series, and we sent that out to you. Abby worked very closely with Florida Today. They approached us and wanted to do a transportation safety series. And so Abby worked very closely with them to try and, shape the narrative and to make sure that there was accurate data. And so there were 15 articles within the month of May, including they let us do an op-ed as well concerning transportation safety. So I think the point here is that there's still so much more work for all of us to do. We can't let up, and everyone really has a part to play, including our citizens. And of course, we know the Florida Department of Transportation, all the work that they're doing, and you're going to hear more about that when Lorraine presents later. So just wanted to share this with you. Abby released this in a press release, and it includes the report information if you want to look at it. And so I'd like to bring up Abby, and she just wants to report very quickly on a couple of our highlights.
Good afternoon. I'm Abby Hemingway. I'm our Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO. And as Georgina said, I just wanted to kind of recap a few wins for our organization over the past few months. So a few weeks ago, our staff had an amazing experience. Every year, we hold an annual staff retreat. We try to pair this with a learning opportunity for our staff members. For the past few years, we've also integrated transportation into this staff retreat. So this year, we thought it would be very fitting that our staff journey on Brightline from the new Orlando International Airport Brightline Station to West Palm Beach. And so it was a really fun day, fostering connections, immersing ourselves really in passenger rail as a mode choice. And some of our biggest takeaways were really firsthand experience has really fortified our advocacy as a planning organization for our COCO intermodal station here on the Space Coast. And I think this trip really helped equip us with real insights to champion, right, transportation here on the Space Coast. We also had the opportunity to collaborate with our sister organization, the Palm Beach TPA, and that was very insightful and pivotal in our understanding of how they have advocated for transportation in their area. We also talk about some best practices in the planning world, and we had a peer exchange in between our staff members. So we really enjoyed this trip, and it was a really great and eye-opening experience, as many of our staff members had never taken Brightline before. Moving on, speaking of our passenger rail, hopefully many of you saw this online and in the news media. From June 10th to June 30th, the Space Coast TPO ran a Shape Your Station survey where we gathered input from citizens and everyone here on the Space Coast about the surrounding area development and general user experience within this survey. And this was really an initial survey to gather some input from our citizens of what do they want to see in this station and around it. Many of our partners shared it, including the City of Cocoa, Eastern Florida State College Cocoa Campus, and the Office of Tourism. We also had the help, of course, of our local news media partners. Many broadcast and digital news media outlets shared it for us, and we received an overwhelming 2,750 responses. And it doesn't seem like a lot, right, compared to our population, but in the planning world, that is a very large response for a survey. So it really shows us that our citizens care about this station. They're interested in what it's going to look and feel like and what is going to be around it. So we're going to be working on the results, and we'll report back on, what was shared within that as a feedback opportunity from the community. And last but not least, it was a really busy few weeks in May and June for our staff as we hosted a 4-week series of public workshops where we worked together with our consultant HGR and our friends at Space Coast Area Transit to gather input about the future of our transportation needs. We held public workshops across the county, and we had some really productive conversations with our citizens about the different gaps that we're seeing in transportation and the needs that we really need to have with over the next 25 years. During the workshops, attendees heard from us briefly about the planning process and our long-range transportation plan, but then they had the opportunity to visit different learning stations, and these are where the real conversations started happening. They were interactive, hands-on learning, from mapping their transportation needs to playing transportation tycoon with some fake money where they wanted to prioritize projects. And then they also answered some really tough safety questions and got a little bit schooled and educated at our safety table. So there was really a lot of enthusiasm at these, and in total, we saw 76 participants across the county, which, again, doesn't seem like a lot, but for a public meeting, it's a lot for the transportation planning world. If you haven't had a chance to get involved in our long-range transportation plan, we still have all these activities replicated on our website, so there's still time to get involved. I'll take take it back to Georgiana. Yes.
Yes, Skip.
People probably know in Maitland, Sunrail, you know, they built the station and FDOT paid all the expenses for X amount of time. It was all documented and written down, that eventually the city would end up taking over the expenses of the station, which turned out to be, you know, like $268,000 a year, which worked out to, you know, $4.63 per rider out of Maitland. So they were kind of balking at it. This particular station with all aboard Florida and Brightline wouldn't be built with their money, and if it's built or maintained, is it going to be potentially built or maintained by FDOT, and then we're going to get stuck in that same boat?
Private organization, as you know, and Brightline will be responsible for the operations of this station. And I am 99.9% sure that the department is not going to be stuck with, you know, funding anything to do with that station. So Brightline is responsible for the operations of the rail venture as well as the station.
Who's going to own it?
Brightline is going to own the station.
So we're building them a $75 million station and going, here, thank you very much?
Well, we're not building
We,
them
the
a station.
taxpayers, are.
Well, we have applied for, as you know, we talked about this at the last meeting, a federal USDOT Christie grant. The city of Cocoa is the lead applicant.
Yes.
And paid for the actual grant development. And so we are, of course, it requires a 20% non-federal match. So we are very hopeful that that grant award will be successful, and we should know something before November, I would say, before the election.
That kind of smells like magic money to me. Is that taxpayer money that you're talking about? Or where is it coming from that you're even talking about distributing in this grant? Is it taxpayer money in the grant?
You're talking about the local?
You talked about a
The Christie grant is from the Federal Railroad Administration.
Well, it's taxpayer money.
It is, but keep in mind that the purpose of the grant is for rail operators. So whether it be the Florida East Coast Railway or CSX or Brightline, they are an eligible applicant. So if they want to go after an FRA grant, they are certainly within their rights to do it.
So just one follow-up question. So if we get the money, the place gets built, as you said, it's owned by, all aboard Florida Brightline. Mm-hmm. If they decide, it's costing us too much money to run this station, there aren't that many people that are boarding and, getting off at this station, we want, $250,000 a year to keep it open. Otherwise, we're going to shut it. So is there some kind of way to contractually make sure that that doesn't happen? Because that would be a burden on the taxpayers of Brevard County.
You are asking a question that I don't know the answer to.
I'll ask Paul.
I don't know the answer either, but I do know this. The short answer to your question is there's some way to ensure that we don't get hung with something. I think there's a couple of different ways to approach it. The first issue is because we have all these federal taxpayers' monies that will be coming in, hopefully, to finance the construction of this place. If the federal government, as part of their grant agreement, so decides, they could include clawback provisions, whereby if the station were to be closed within 10 years or 20 years or whatever after it's been opened, the federal government might have the right to claw back monies from Brightline. I think one of the problems here is when we deal with, a lot of people don't realize this, when we deal with mass transit of any type, it ends up being subsidized by taxpayers, and most people don't realize that. I've heard that the fare box, for instance, with regard to bus transportation, and Georgiana, you may have a better idea of this than I do, but I've heard that the fare box where people are paying for their ride, that only pays for like 10 to 15% of the cost of operating the bus system. Well, where does the rest of the money come from? And the answer is it comes from local government and the federal government. And you can say, well, you know, the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay this till. You may be correct about that, but the response that you then get from the mass transit operators is fine. We just won't have mass transit because it doesn't pay for itself like it should. That's the problem. But the short answer to your question is there some way to put clawback provisions in the grant or something of that sort? There is. It'd probably be up to the Federal Rail Administration to do that, though.
Okay, I didn't mean to take up so much time, but, you know, it's just, you know, we're supposed to be projecting out to 2040. I think now are we out to 2050 or something that we're supposed to project out to? So this burden, you know, we build the station, which is going to take a lot of time. They're going to get all the money. You know, they're going to get the station. They're not going to close it down in 5 years. They probably won't close it down for 10 years. But for the future people that are going to be either sitting here or paying taxes in Brevard County, we got to try to do whatever we can to protect them from getting hit with a big bill, be it 15 years from now or 20 years from now or 25 years from now.
May I add a little substance to this, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Blake, meeting with Captain John Murray and his staff and the board commissioners. The projection of last year was 3.7 million, and they're anticipating 8 million individuals traveling from Orlando to the port. And as you all know, it's a direct line, so I do not see the numbers decreasing ever unless we have some major catastrophic impact, say COVID or something to that nature. The only thing I really see is the numbers increasing, so that the number of individuals that would support and accommodate the operations of the railway system, of Brightline, I just see the numbers increasing. And look at that, at the space industry too, with Kennedy Space Center and space, old school Patrick Air Force Base, with the number of launches taking place. I think the numbers would support the survival. Matter of fact, not only will it survive, but I'm thinking it will thrive because it's a direct impact, especially along the coastal area where it affects you directly, Skip, and the city of Rockledge as well.
The train doesn't go to the coast. The train stops in Cocoa.
Yes, and then there's the intermodal that will take them from the train station to the port areas and the Atlantic coastal areas. And everyone gets a piece of the pie. It affects everyone. Even in the hotel motels industry, the heads and beds. So everyone has the opportunity to have a piece of the pie.
Mike, I hope it works exactly just like the picture you're laying out.
Even biblically, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, it will take place.
And
it
Okay,
seems like
very,
you have a
very
mustard
good point there. Thank you. But
I
thank you
would
both for
just
your
say
comments.
that, Mayor Blake, that I'm 100% behind the station. I'm just wanting to, if we can throw a paragraph in some legal document between now and when it gets all solidified, that's going to lock them out of being able to just pass all the costs back to Brevard County in 15, 20, 25 years, then I'd like to throw that paragraph in there.
Thank you, Skip. Thank you for your comments. We'll move on to the next item, if we can, please.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, before we move on, can we go back to public comment briefly? We do have one public comment that came in late.
All right, thank you. Okay. 3E. Is it still Sandra?
Hi, Sandra Sullivan from South Patrick Shores. Just a couple comments.
I guess we're going to hear from Sandra Sullivan now.
Oh, sorry, apologies. So just a couple things on the Brightline. We have discussed here before, we have a fiscal crisis, a fiscal cliff coming in 2025 with gas tax revenues and what it brings in. And yet I'm very upset right now that we took $1.1 million of the gas tax, the very limited gas tax that we have, to match a grant for Brightline to fix their quad gates. Now, we have an issue right now in Brevard County where we have a $1 billion deficit on transportation. We have $800 million deficit for capacity needs with no way to pay for this. I mean, where do you think the burden is going to end up being placed? Now, to put this into perspective, the agreement between the county and Brightline is Brightline was responsible for their crossings for 18 years. And there's already issues and concerns with what's going to happen at the end of 18 years when you have areas like Grantville-Carrier that has 7 crossings. It's going to end up being a large portion of their budget. They're going to have to raise taxes. And so what are we doing here? We're letting them off the hook? I mean, are you guys looking at this company and how poorly they're doing fiscally? I mean, they dropped their commuter pass and other things. And there's real questions whether this is even going to be a viable company. And then I'm just going to add another comment. I was very discouraged seeing the survey that went out on what I will call a 15-minute city, because it's, you know, the survey went out and it says, well, are you for retail and restaurants and housing and hotel, all this stuff? There's no option to say, no, I'm not in favor of it. I certainly don't want taxpayers. Why are we even talking about this in a taxpayer setting? This is a private entity. This is owned by Fortress Private Equity Group. Last thing I checked, we're in America. We believe in free market. And yet we're doling out $75 million and they're not even putting in anything other than buying land. I mean, they're not poor. They spent $38 million for land up at Tico. They're in the development business of building housing. They're not a transportation company. Wake up. That's pretty much my comments on this, but you know, I think we owe our taxpayers of Brevard, when we've kicked the can down the road on impact fees for 32 years, it's about time we start addressing the issues of how we're going to pay for transportation without burdening the people.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee report. Georgiana?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee met on Monday, and you have a summary of actions at your place. The TACCAC recommended approval unanimously for all of the action items. You also have their draft meeting minutes of May 6th and the 2024 attendance record to date, if you would like to take a look at that. That's all.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Sarah, Bicycle and Trails?
Good afternoon, Sarah Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. The Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee met on June 24th. We did not include those meeting minutes within your agenda package due to the timing of the meeting and when we needed to develop the package, so you'll receive those meeting minutes as approved in September. They reviewed our list of project priorities and recommended approval, as well as also Brevard County's Housing and Human Services presented on a recent trail project they completed in Sharps. Also attached in your agenda package are updates on 2 studies that we're doing on trails, the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail feasibility study, and then the Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board, Terry Jordan.
So, Madam Chair, we did not realize, we had forgotten that Terry presented on the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board in May, and so he does not have anything to report, but Terry is here, the Executive Director of Space Coast Area Transit, if you have any questions. So there's no other report.
All right, thank you very much. Then we'll go to the Florida Department of Transportation report, Secretary Tyler, and welcome Secretary Tyler coming here. And then we do have a public comment on that, which we'll hear right after this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So again, my name is John Tyler. I'm the District 5 Secretary for FDOT. District 5 makes up 9 counties of East Central Florida. Our headquarters is over in DeLand, but we have an office right here locally. Our Brevard Operations Office is over in Cocoa, and our Brevard Operations Engineer is Ms. Suzanne Phillips, someone that you probably see here very regularly, but good to be back. It's been a while since I was here addressing this group, and I do apologize for that. I do want to do a better job of getting out here more regularly. Today's meeting is very important, not because I'm here, but because of what you're going to do with the adoption of your transportation improvement plan and your list of priority projects. That piece of information, that tool, is vital to helping us at the department understand what are the priorities of this area, and as we move into our work program development cycle, establishing the budget for the next 5 years, understanding your priorities is going to help us tremendously as we try to balance all of the needs, because there are definitely more needs than are funds available. So we really have to focus in on what can we achieve with the resources that we have, and where can we do the most good. And your feedback on that priority list helps us get crystal clear, granular focus on what's important to your community. So thank you for your work and the staff work, to get to this point today. So that's going to be a big achievement. And I wanted to give you some context of what we do with it once you pass that. The department takes it, and we start building our next budget. So I did want to go over a few things today. So this is a little bit longer DOT report than you're normally used to, and I have some slides, some visuals to kind of, and you guide me as we go through that conversation. All right, and there, I should have advanced the slides so you could see which 9 counties I was talking about. At FDOT, we have a compass that guides us every single day. And our compass is a little bit unique. It's got 6 points on it. It's a 6-pointed compass, if you can believe that. All right, communities are at the center of our compass. Safety is our top priority. It's at the top of the compass. But we also have resiliency, workforce, supply chain, and technology that are other components that help us. When we build transportation, when we move people and goods, which is our core mission, when we align that effort, thinking about these 6 points of our compass, we believe that we achieve the best results that we can for the state of Florida and for our cities and our counties. So I'm going to kind of talk about the projects that we've got going on, some of the initiatives in context to this compass. And I'm going to start off with talking about the work that we have going on at the NASA Causeway Bridge that we're building over the Indian River, and the widening of Space Commerce Way. So these are 2 critical transportation links leading into the spaceport, and supply chain is certainly one of the reasons that we built these facilities, to be able to move rockets, pieces of rockets, around and to the spaceport. We opened that first bridge over the Indian River last June, 100 days ahead of schedule, and within a week, we had our first oversized permitted load go across that bridge that was unable to do it under the previous structure. So people were literally waiting for that bridge to be open to traffic. And since then, we've had traffic go over it very regularly. Think about the launches that are actually going up into space. Most of the time, that came on several trucks over that bridge. So supply chain of a very unique feature. And then Space Commerce Way, we're widening Space Commerce Way, a unique project. You don't often get to widen a road literally in front of a rocket factory, but that's what's going on there. And, they're also moving, large loads in that area as well. But these projects are also going to help improve resiliency in and out of the spaceport, being able to take that bascule bridge that was built back in the early days of the space program, actually before the space program really got off the ground. It was time for a change. So we're excited to work with the Space Center on these projects, and they will be complete. Not Ellis Road, I'm going to talk about that at the end, so it's clearly on my mind. Space Commerce Way is going to be finished as we close out the year, and that second bridge over the Indian River will be opening up sometime in the spring of next year. So moving on to technology and safety kind of combined together. Brevard County has been working, they have visioned having a transportation management center of their own, and that is coming closer and closer to fruition. FDOT is helping out with that, both in terms of funding, helping ensure that that project can be realized, but we're also going to be helping them out with the brain power of how to operate a TMC. Because I can tell you firsthand experience that having one of these RTMCs is going to be a game changer for your county. You can squeeze more capacity. You can improve operations. You can improve safety on the fly in real time with the 21st century transportation management center that integrates all of your ITS using all of the technologies that are available. And then the other piece of technology is the human component. It's having the operators with the brain power to be able to do the things, to make all the stuff work. You're really going to see a dramatic difference once this thing is up and running and it's got all your signals working. You can respond to incidents. You can make real-time changes. It's a pretty significant feature to add to Brevard County, and I applaud you for having that vision to move forward with that. Next, I'm moving on to resiliency. So here in the state of Florida with what we have, it's not just hurricanes that we've got to worry about. There are, rising seas down in South Florida. They got to deal with that. But we also have, I call it, we got 4 seasons in the state of Florida. You've got hurricane season, and then you got wildfire season, and you got tornado season, and then you have sinkhole season. And they actually kind of do follow, in not necessarily in that order, but those are the things that we have to worry about for resiliency of our transportation system because they can impact that. But uniquely right here in Brevard County along US 1 in front of Indian River, you have one of the more vulnerable pieces of infrastructure in the region, where US 1 runs along the Indian River. It's elevated above US 1. We've actually had 7 different washouts just within the last 2 years. So things are starting to increase in their degradation along this corridor. And these are some of the pictures of the damage and the repairs. We've been very responsive. Suzanne's team gets out there and repairs the damage as quickly as we can, but we need a long-term solution. So we're looking for that, and we're actually taking a page out of your book. Brevard County's working on a project over at along the Max Brewer Causeway using what's called wave attenuating devices. And that's these funny-looking triangle things that's sitting on the back of that truck. They put them out in the water. It creates an opportunity for the wave energy to dissipate, and then behind the wave attenuation devices, mangroves can take root and help reestablish the shoreline. So we are looking at that. It's going to require resources that we have not yet identified. It's a long-term project. In the meantime, Suzanne's team will keep that road open, but it is something that has our attention here in Brevard County. But the other component to resiliency is not just building infrastructure and strengthening your infrastructure. It's also about having a resilient transportation system. With our definition up there is the ability to recover from disruption. And we're going to have disruptions from the sinkholes, the wildfires, the tornadoes, and the hurricanes. They happen regularly, and we are getting better and better with how we are responding to these events. In the 5 years that Governor DeSantis has been our governor, he has really challenged the state agencies to go farther and faster with our response. And unfortunately, we've had many opportunities to exercise with that. And I want to share with you a little video that DOT is ready to go. It's June 1st. It was a month ago we started our hurricane season, but we're laser focused to be ready when the state needs us. So if you wouldn't mind indulging me, I'll share with you a little video that we have put together to kind of demonstrate our readiness for this season. that we do, that we've started doing, is actually putting up base camps so that we can put people in the community helping to respond and recover until they're back on their feet and we can get back out. And we are actually looking at an agreement with, is it with Brevard County, Suzanne? Or is it with the sheriff's office or the sheriff's office? To be able to have a base camp area ready to go right here in Brevard. Should we need it? The entire FDOT, not just me in my office in DeLand, the entire state is ready to come here to help you guys recover after a storm, which is, I think, exciting. There's a lot of people backing us up. So we are ready to go. Hopefully, we will just go through some drills this year and watch them pass by. But if not, we are absolutely ready to go. All right, closing out the Compass discussion with safety. It's our top priority, and I always like to close out with it when I'm talking about the Compass. The safety strategic plan that we have developed here in Central Florida is something that's starting to really grow some momentum. We came out into the communities, and basically what we did at DOT is we decided to ask the communities who would like to join us to pull all of our resources and all of our efforts together so that we can all pull in the same direction. Everybody's doing great things. But how can we all collaborate together, learn from each other, and pull in the same direction? And overwhelmingly, the community said, yes, we want to do that. So we've been working on this concept for the last year. Lorene Bobo, our safety administrator, is going to come up and give you a much more detailed presentation of what we went through and what we're doing. But we celebrated our first annual safety summit earlier this spring. And I do want to thank Councilman Don Willis for serving on our panel. He sat on a panel with other elected officials from around the region to talk about what's going on here in Brevard County. We also recognized the Space Coast TPO with the Outreach Award because, and you saw it earlier, what they do in your communities is top notch. It's some of the best that we see in Central Florida. They get it. They understand that by engaging with the community, we can make a real difference. And so we wanted to make sure that we were going to recognize their efforts. So thank y'all for that, and more on the safety strategic plan from Lorene. A lady by the name of Kathy Alexander, she's my program administrator. She came and gave y'all a presentation a couple of months ago, and this was a slide from her presentation. I know there were some questions about long-term and future funding for transportation here in Brevard County, and these are some of the statistics that she showed that kind of looks 5 years back and 5 years ahead. Where do you guys kind of stand? There are 9 counties in Central Florida, and kind of depending on the metric, somewhere between 12 and 15% of funding goes to Brevard for all of the transportation needs. And it's not just highways. There's a seaport, there's a spaceport, there's an international airport, as well as other general aviation airports, and we try to support all of those facilities. And there's going to be peaks and valleys with funding, and that's just the way that things work. But over the last 10 years, there has been a significant investment in transportation, especially with highways, here in Brevard County. We've completed the 6 laning of I-95 over that period of time. We've done more widening on US 1 during that time. We've built new interchanges at Ellis Road, at St. John's Heritage Parkway. We converted one at Vieira. We built new bridge over Max Brewer Causeway. We're building one now over the NASA Causeway. A lot of these projects I actually worked on personally. Before I was the district secretary, I actually worked in our construction program. So I have a lot of fond memories of working on these projects that I just mentioned. And it's going to come back, all right? If you're feeling like you're in a trough, don't worry. It's coming back, because that's how the work program cycles work. And we do try, because these projects are getting more and more expensive. So you kind of gotta take care of an area, and then you move on, and then you get to that area, and then so things do cycle that way. And so money is going to be coming. And I'm going to close out by talking about Ellis, and that's my next biggest focus, to make sure that this community has what it needs for transportation. She also talked about the spaceport. You have the premier spaceport on the planet right here in Brevard County. All right, and that's not an exaggeration. You could probably say it's the premier spaceport in the universe, or at least in the solar system or the galaxy. But I mean, you have something unique to this planet, unique to this state, right here in Central Florida, and it's not going to stay the premier spaceport unless we work to keep it the premier spaceport. You know, space is growing. It's an emerging industry. It's going to grow around the nation. It's going to grow around the world. If we want to keep our competitive advantage, we're going to have to keep investing in the spaceport. This is kind of a look at the 5 years in the past and the 5 years into the future of spaceport funding. The spaceport funding from FDOT is a subset of our aviation funding. So that's where the money comes from. It can't really be flexed to, hey, instead of doing that, can you do something on the roadway? Unfortunately, no, it doesn't work that way. This is part of our aviation program that is flexed to the spaceport. But you know, a lot of investment over there. The legislature added some additional members to the Space Florida Board of Directors, and my boss, the Secretary of DOT, he is now a board member. That is a direct reflection of how the state of Florida feels about the transportation and space being linked close together. So my job is to make sure that they have what they need over at the spaceport, and that's why we're working on the NASA Causeway Bridge and Space Commerce Way, and we've got other projects in the pipeline as well. So you have an exciting, unique feature right here in Brevard that exists no other place on this planet. The 2055, this is my required commercial announcement. We are updating our next version of the Florida Transportation Plan. This is a 30-year plan. It's updated every 5 years, and we go through about a year-long process of reaching out to communities to find out what's important to them so that we can include that in the plan as we revisit it. It's going to have some focus groups that are going to focus on safety, resiliency, economic development and supply chain, technology and workforce, points of the compass. And we're also going to have some regional focus groups broken up there on the map. And if you're interested in participating, we do encourage everyone to participate, whether you're an elected official, an appointed official, you know, a staff member at a government agency, or a citizen. Please join us in helping develop the next version of the Florida Transportation Plan. You can find out more by going to floridaftp.com. Is that website up there? I'll say it again. Oh, there's the QR code. Look at that, technology. I still don't know how to use those things. But that's how you can learn more about the focus groups and how to give comments. All right, I'm going to focus out with some critical projects, some focus areas that we have over at Port Canaveral. Man, if you've ever, I love going out to the port and eating lunch there at one of those restaurants. Because yeah, I like grills. I like several of them. I don't have a particular favorite, you know, just like I don't have a particular favorite county. But I like sitting there and just looking out on the water and looking at all the transportation that's going on in that port. I mean, you got ships coming in and out. Some of them have rockets on them. You know, you've got materials coming in from all over the world. Roadway materials, a lot of roadway materials come into to Port Canaveral that we use for roadway construction. There's certainly a lot of cars, you know, coming in and out of there as well. The cruise ships, it is a very unique, you know, feature, and it's my only port. So it is my favorite port. So we've got a lot of things that we're working on over there. So we help fund public transportation related programs within the port. I say that because, you know, cruising is not considered a public transportation program, but we support the programs for cargo and things of that nature. So the mobile harbor crane that you see out there, you can see that on the skyline. You know, we helped fund that. The cargo berth improvements and expansions, the cargo berth expansions that are going on out there, we're helping to fund with that. So there's a lot of transportation components going on there at the port. as well as the roadways going into and out of the port. State Road 401, we have completed the PD&E study for that. We are moving into design of the 401 bridge. We took a little pause because we had some concerns from the space industry about whether or not a movable bridge was the right solution. Took about 9 months, and we convinced them that yes, it is. So now we're all on board, and we're moving ahead again, and it will be a high-level bridge that does not open. That will be our final design. We're also working on 528. That project is also in design and moving into right-of-way and getting our permits acquired. For both of those projects, though, they are very expensive. They're very expensive. All told, we're looking at around $800 million of construction funding for all of what we need to do on 528 and 401. So remember that cycle. Okay, it's, we're going to need to be on the wave, the top of the wave, to be able to fund, $800 million. But it will come. It will come. The other thing that we're working on is we're working with Space Florida and Port Canaveral on an expansion of the port through something that we call the wharf study. This wharf study is a project to help figure out how can we better accommodate both the regular needs of the port, which is the cruise ships as well as the cargo ships, alongside the vessels that the space industry is using for recovery of their rocket ships. And so that's what the wharf study is. It made some recommendations earlier this spring, and we're trying to figure out where we go next with expanding some of those wharfs that the space industry can use. So more to come on that. That'll be another long-term project for us. I-95, I need to talk a little bit about I-95 because probably most of you got here or are going home, on I-95. It becomes, main streets for, our communities like Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, here in Brevard, up in Volusia County. It's not just people going from state to state. It supports so much of the mobility in any region where the interstate exists. And so I-95, we finished the widening to 6 lanes, which I mentioned over the last 10 years. But what's next? All right, that's not all. We're going to need more than that, especially with all the development and people moving to Central Florida. So we're starting to look at that. And when you look at the interstate, there's 2 challenges that you have to address. One is, what do you do with the interstate itself? We need to add more capacity. How do we do that? Do we add lanes? What type of lanes do we add? Do we add express lanes? Do we add truck-only lanes? Do we add just more lanes and have, an 8-lane wide facility like you see down in Miami? What kind of lanes do you add? So that's one question. The second question is, what do you do with the interchanges? Because most of those interchanges are going to have to expand again, just to accommodate the interstate, but also to accommodate all the traffic that's exiting and entering the interstate from that location. And you can see all those interchanges there are the white dots. So there's a lot of them. So it's going to be a big challenge to try to figure out what is the future of I-95, but we are beginning. This year, we're going to be working on what we call a planning and environmental linkage, which is really just a euphemism for a very early step of a PD&E study to look at the section of I-95 from Palm Bay to Fisk Boulevard. And the reason that we chose that is because we've done a traffic analysis, and that's the area that we believe is going to be needing the attention first, within the limits of the county. We're going to do the whole county eventually, but that's where we're going to start first, and we're going to be starting this fall. We'll be starting with a traffic evaluation. We'll be starting with some noise evaluations of what that additional traffic is going to generate in terms of noise. We've got several communities down there that are already talking to us about their concerns regarding noise, and there will be community involvement and specific outreach to those communities in that area between Palm Bay and Fisk, probably in early 2025. You can be on the lookout for that. So that's just where we're starting. We're going to expand from there, but that's where we're starting here in the next 6 to 9 months. And then I mentioned the interchanges. Fortunately, we do have an interchange PD&E study already funded and ready to be, it's actually going to advertise later this month. So we'll bring on a consultant team that will take a look at the interchange here at Malabar Road and how it's, what it needs to do to be able to accommodate the growth that we have and the growth that we're going to see in the future, and then also to align with what is going to be that vision for I-95 the next time we add capacity to the interstate. So that'll be kicking off, and I'm sure the folks in those communities are excited about that. I'm getting close, folks. I'm getting close to being finished, and thank you for your patience. You got a lot of things, a lot of exceptional things going on here in Brevard County, and I really want to touch on as many as I can. You've got an international airport. I don't have to tell you that. It's been growing and growing over the years. Over the last 10 years, FDOT has invested over $46 million in helping Melbourne Orlando International Airport, grow and achieve their strategic vision. So we've got a great partnership with them. We help them where we can. But the biggest thing that's on their mind, and most people in this room, is Ellis Road. So now I'm getting close to the end. All right. This is your number one priority, your number one SIS priority. It's been that number one priority for several years, and it is time to get this thing going. So right-of-way is fully funded. FDOT is working very, very closely with Brevard County. So Brevard County did the design. FDOT is doing the right-of-way acquisition. We expect the right-of-way acquisition to be completed sometime this spring. And then the next thing that we're going to see is what's called an advanced clearing and grubbing contract. What a clearing and grubbing contract is you go out and you start clearing the land that has been purchased. What that enables you to do, what it enables us to do, is it allows the utilities to go out and relocate their facilities, because they pretty much go at the outside of the right-of-way line. Now, okay, we've cleared it. Now you get to move your stuff. And once you've moved your stuff, the goal is to then start building the widened highway. Now, we haven't fully funded that project yet, but it is one of my highest priorities that we get it funded over the next year. And that clearing and grubbing effort was facilitated by an appropriation, around a $5 million appropriation that Senator Mayfield and Representative Soroy both championed this past legislative session. I worked with them throughout the session to make sure that was something that was going to work in concert with what Brevard County and FDOT are currently doing, and hopefully, not get vetoed. And so we've got the money to be able to get that clearing and grubbing contract going, which is basically starting construction. That's what it is. Because if we were building this project without the advanced clearing and grubbing contract, you start with clearing and grubbing. So we're taking a piece for money that we have, and we're starting construction, and you'll see that as we move into 2025, probably spring, early summers, when that will really get going. But our goal between FDOT and Brevard County and Space Coast TPO and Melbourne and West Melbourne and the airport, everybody who's got skin in the game on this thing, is we're going to keep focused on getting the rest of the construction funding in place so that we can keep that momentum going. Space Coast TPO has submitted for an infra grant, second time. I think second time is going to be the charm. But we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're pursuing every dollar that we can to be able to get this project funded, and I can give you my personal commitment that I will remain laser focused on Ellis Road until it is well under construction. So with that, I know I covered a lot, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mayor Medina.
Mr. Secretary, the first thing I want to start by saying thank you for all that you do. And even moreover, for listening to our constituency in the southern part of our county, in particular Palm Bay, that interchange you speak of on Malabar Road, and the necessity of getting that done as soon as possible. As you know, and I shared with you in the correspondence, we've lost a life already, and And I know that your data reveals how difficult it is for our motorists to transport through there. So one of my questions would be more directed towards your influence with Florida Highway Patrol and acting as a deterrent for bad behavior right about at that intersection. I believe what's happening is many motorists are cutting off other motorists because the line backs up pretty much close to the previous interchange, and that's causing a lot of bad behavior. And so is there any influence that you can have to perhaps have FHP patrol there to deter that bad behavior?
No, that's a great question, Mayor. Thank you for bringing that up. We're actually, the PD&E study, is just getting started, and that, let's be realistic with each other. That means that construction of a new interchange is still a long way away. Right. But we got to do something between now and then. Yes, sir. And so we're working on what is that something that we can do. So using technology, we are keeping a very close, and we've kind of raised our level of awareness and monitoring of this interchange very recently. And so we're using our technology to try to pinpoint exactly what you're talking about. Things that you know about and you see every day, we're now trying to find those, on cameras and on our technology devices. Because once we can measure it, then we can start doing something about it. We can start designing a solution, an interim solution, maybe tweak a signal, maybe extend a turn lane, do something to address the phenomenon that we're seeing. So we're working on that, and I hope to have more information on what we're able to actually do out in the field, to help rectify some of those problems. But you asked about FHP. We have a very strong relationship with FHP. They're our sister state agency, part of the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. And so we have, we can talk to the major. And but we need data. I need to have some specifics. Things that you already know as locals, will be helpful. And I need to be able to take that stuff so I can present it to FHP and say, because then I can drill it down to, I need you there on Tuesday at 3:45. But yes, we can do that.
Well, sir, Mr. Secretary, I really appreciate you even considering that, because you're right. If with that data, and you have the capacity to get that data, you will be able to pin it down, work, when people are going home from work. So thank you for your consideration. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Forrester.
Yeah, I have a question on the Beeline widening program. Years ago, Georgina, you can help me remember how many years ago, when we first started talking about the widening of the beach line, whatever you want to call it. One of the things we talked about was we were also looking at that in conjunction with sustainability and with pollution in the Indian River Lagoon. You remember those conversations?
Yes, sir.
And we were hoping that as we redid those roadways, that we could make some improvements that would allow more water passage under the highway to open up the water flow of the lagoon to some extent. And I don't know, it seems like we talk about stuff and then it's like all of a sudden you guys are doing something completely different somewhere else. And I get confused as to when you start things and when you don't. And we thought something was going to happen a certain place from way, then it turns out, well, the money's not there for that, but we're doing this instead. And I get that, But yeah, I'm just wondering if any consideration is being given to that flow of water through that highway, under that highway.
Yes, no, that's a great question, and environmental stewardship is a core value of FDOT. It's part of our mission to preserve the quality of our communities and our environments in conjunction with our projects. So we definitely take it seriously. So specifically for 528, the portion over the Banana River, the design does include a longer bridge that will facilitate someone else removing the causeway underneath it. in the future. So it's not part of the scope. So I mentioned $800 million worth of improvements.
Right.
That includes new bridges that are longer but it doesn't include removing the causeway.
Building the new one, but not taking out the old one.
Correct. But I mean, that's where we are at the moment. And kind of the thought process is that, we'll have to pursue as a community the funding to be able to remove those causeways to get potentially more circulation going back and forth. The other thing that we're doing in conjunction with that project, we have to mitigate. For every project that we do whenever we're getting an environmental resource permit. And one of the creative things that we're doing for mitigation for that particular project is we're working with St. Johns River Water Management District and Brevard County on septic to sewer conversions for homes that still have septic tanks, near and along the Banana River. And you typically don't think that a highway project is going to have mitigation that's going to end up helping somebody connect to a new sewer system, but we are. And the environmental scientists that study this, they've advised us that, hey, you want your biggest bang for your buck when it comes to mitigation is stop getting some of these nutrients, from flowing into the Banana River. And so that's what has led us. So, hey, if you got, $5 million of mitigation, funding, and that's a round number, that's not an exact number, it's just for example, you can't remove a whole lot of causeway for that, but you can connect a lot of sewers, a lot of homes to sewers for that. And so we're focusing on that as well. But the ability to open up that channel still exists, but it needs some funding champions to make it a reality.
We, in the city of Rockledge, we have already transferred one full subdivision from septic to sewer, and we've got another one in progress right now. And I will volunteer on a personal note. I have several armadillos in my backyard. I will donate for the destruction of the old roadway. They'd be happy to come dig it up for you.
We've looked into goats, for controlling vegetation on surplus property, but haven't thought about our armadillos. So
There you go.
I'll have to think about that.
All right, any other questions? Yes, Ms. Minus.
How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon.
Okay. I first want to thank you for this very inclusive report of everything that's happening in District 5. So definitely appreciate that. I have a lot of good information to take back to our fair city of Melbourne. And my primary is talking about the Ellis Road interchange, and I thank you for this great update on that. This is definitely good news. Each time you come, or a representative come, it's always good news. I see where the clearing and grubbing is now funded, and that's going to be in the works as well. Now, you mentioned about the $800 million that's going to the beach line widening. That $800 million, is that funded already?
No, ma'am. That's the total amount of the construction need for all of 528 and the 401 bridge replacement. That's what we're looking for. No, we do not have that funding.
Okay, all right. Looking for, can you tell me what is the difference now for the Ellis Road interchange? How much do we need now? I think it was, 30 or 40 million, so we need about $1 million now, right?
We're getting closer. We're not that close yet. We're in the ballpark of 40 to 50 million. Okay, and we don't have an exact number because costs are still rising. Every time we do a cost estimate update, it's higher. I almost want to tell people stop updating the cost, but we need to, because when we advertise it for letting, we need to know what the reality is. But what we're also working on with Brevard County is doing a value engineering study of Ellis Road. And this is basically going back and taking another look at the design. Is there anything in there that we don't absolutely need? Or is there another design choice that we can make that gets us the same thing, but at a lower cost? And every dollar matters when you're looking, for your last dollar of construction funding. And the appropriation that the senator and the representative were able to bring to this project also helps help close that gap. So we're getting closer and closer. We've got several, I'll call it irons in the fire of how we're going to try to fund that gap between going after a federal grant, between looking for financing options, between looking at partnerships along the corridor. So we're not resting on any one funding strategy, but we're not going to rest until it is funded.
Okay, I think that's definitely, that is good news also. I'm trying to see, did I understand you correctly? You said that maybe 2025 is possible to start, or that will be funded, or is possibly could be funded for that 30 or 40 million? Tentative?
2025 is the year for the clearing and grubbing to start.
Okay.
Okay. And our goal is to fully fund the remainder, 40 to 50, in fiscal year 2026. Because the idea that we have with Brevard County is we're going to start the clearing and grubbing this spring. It's going to take about 9 months. We want to be able to roll right in to the next phase of construction once that clearing and grubbing is done and the utilities are relocated. And that 9 months later puts us into fiscal year 26. So that's why fiscal year 26 is our goal for getting the rest of the funding in place.
Okay, that would be great. I'd like to see it be consecutive versus, you're doing a part and then we have to wait another 5 or 6 years before we get more funding or whatever. And
Yes, ma'am.
Ellis Road and the people trying to get from 95 to the airport, it's going to be hell to pay. So definitely appreciate everything you can do. And I see that you are working very hard. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your efforts and for your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was an excellent report. Any other questions for Secretary Tyler?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say we so appreciate the leadership from Secretary Tyler. Apologize for the video. Hopefully we will have the next video that Lorene will be presenting worked out before then. But it was a great video, by the way. It was a rocking video, great music.
The music is like, yeah, it gives me goosebumps, but.
My apologies.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. We do have a public comment card on this. Sandra Sullivan.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So just a couple comments. So number one, the port owns the current causeway for 528. And so I'd like to make the suggestion of, as you negotiate with them on the Port Canaveral improvements, given that they have record profits, that they commit to taking out the causeway, since they own the causeway and it's leased to FDOT. The second one is the South Patrick Shores project. It might be an idea to delay that project. The road's not really in bad condition. And given that there are some utility improvements, it wouldn't make sense to pave it and then tear it up 2 years later. So maybe consider that. I-95 is in very bad condition, especially down the south part of the county. The surface pavement is worn all the way through. It might be a safety issue. 3, I would appreciate it if the state statutes for LSVs and golf carts were merged together, because apparently our cities don't know the difference. And it would help with legislation especially in areas like Beachside and other areas where golf carts don't have the safety equipment, they don't have kids buckled in, they don't necessarily have insurance, and require that any golf cart LSV that is driven on the road is plated and licensed, and that would bring more revenue to you. And then on the funding for the next 5 years, less than 5% is the capacity needs, and that is really not acceptable. And 54% is going to Space Florida. Now, I'd like to bring something up, since there was a lot of emphasis about Space Florida, that there was because of the flooding issues in North Merritt Island, there was a special district, a dependent special district called the North Merritt Island Special District. By referendum in 1998 that predates the Space Florida Independent Special District that was created in 2010. And that gives them the right to planning and zoning within that area. And I would suggest you get your legal department to look at the legality of what you're doing with the rapid expansion of South Florida, Space Florida, given the potential legal issues. I've also want to bring to your attention, I'm sure you're aware, that Senate Bill 102 was changed in 2024 with SB 328, to put affordable housing, workforce housing on North Merritt Island. The concern of the residents there is a flood, and I'll point out that the agreement between Space Florida and NASA, that the federal government loses its liability immunity.
Okay, that's 3 minutes.
And I would suggest you do some legal analysis based on the whole embeds controversy and the changes that were made. Really, embeds was created to circumvent North Merritt Island Special District.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right, next item, item number 4, consent agenda. Georgiana, would you please read the consent agenda aloud for the record?
Yes, the consent agenda 4A is the governing board meeting minutes of May 16th. 4B's committee appointments, and we have quite a few. 4C, under finance and budget, we have a unified planning work program amendment to add additional money to fund several studies that the TPO is working on. We also have a draft fiscal year 25 operating budget and fiscal year 24 operating budget for the second quarterly report. 4D is a resolution 25-04. It's our transportation disadvantaged planning grant that we suballocate to Space Coast Area Transit. And then finally, 4E is work order 25-15. This is for our annual, this is for 24-25 traffic data report and analysis that we do each year. So that is the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent
Madam
agenda?
Chair.
I'm sorry, we have a question. Hold on. Yes, Ms. Minor.
I was asking for permission from the chair to speak. If I may move that we approve items A through E.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Minas. I have a motion from Ms. Minas, second from Mayor Medina, a second from Medina. All right, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Georgiana.
Yes.
Action items.
The next two action items are mine, and I will try to keep this very brief. The adoption of our new transportation improvement program. This is a very important document. What is the TIP? You all know what this document is, but just as for the public, this is federally required, and it lists specific projects by phase, anticipated costs, and schedule over the next 5 fiscal years. So we're talking about July 24, 25 through fiscal year 28, 29. And again, the TIP is an important document in that it really brings our vision to life. That's what we're doing with the projects in the TIP, and that is to provide a safe, multimodal, innovative, and resilient transportation system for all. And the TIP really puts the long-range transportation plan into action. Our long-range plan is a 25-year plan. It's, by the way, currently being developed, and it's a very broad and visionary document. It's the cornerstone of all of our transportation investments. From there, projects that are considered cost feasible, and that is important, are added to our list of priority projects, and that's the bridge there that the bus is going over. Once funded, those projects are then incorporated into our transportation improvement program, which, by the way, is a snapshot of the FDOT work, is the TPO's document, and we can adjust that document really to look and feel in a way that suits our needs. But at the end of the day, involvement is deeply embedded throughout this process. This is just an overview of the TIP development process. You all here are very familiar with that. Our draft tip has been out for a 30-day public comment period. Actually, it's been well over 30 days. We had our official open house on June the 12th. And as we are working on our long-range plan public meetings, we have also had a specific table at each one of our long-range plan pop-up events where we have had our project priorities, and we've had a lot of questions from our public, and it's been very, very good events. So what are you approving? You are approving 93 projects, $1.2 billion. And this is real money on real projects that's going to improve our quality of life, our economic development, and safety here in Brevard County. And last slide, this is just a graph of the different categories in our transportation improvement program. There's different modes, and as you know, we are very unique here in Brevard County. We have intermodal rail planning, which is our UPWP funding, space, port. Yes, space, there's $453 million in space, but keep in mind that also includes local match. That's not all state money. And so we're bringing in really that economic development into Brevard County. Aviation, transit, port, technology. We have a sidewalks, complete streets and trails section, a safety section, maintenance, $421 million going to maintenance of our highways, and capacity, 96.1 million. So 1.2 billion is what that equals. And so what we are asking for is an adoption of our fiscal year 25 through 29 Transportation Improvement Program.
Can we get a motion? Motion by Blake, second by?
Second.
Second by Ms. Minus. This is a roll call vote.
Yes.
Okay. Blake?
Yes.
Feltner?
Yes.
Forrester?
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Hanley? Medina?
Yay.
Minus?
Aye.
Robinson? Williams? Young?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, one more.
Yes, I'm sorry, did not see you, Mr. Felix. Yes.
See you come in. Felix? Okay, sorry.
All right, so moving on to the next item.
Moving on to the next item, yes,
Okay.
fiscal year 24-28.
Okay, this is a housekeeping item. It's our Transportation Improvement Program amendment. This should be our last amendment for our currently active Transportation Improvement Program. And of course, this is a 5-year federal and state program for transportation dollars here in Brevard County. So the first amendment is US 1 from Myers Drive to Crane Creek Bridge. This project plans to resurface US 1 from Myers Drive to Crane Creek Bridge in Melbourne and Palm Bay. It will also include parts of a streetscaping project for the city of Melbourne from W.H. Jackson to Crane Creek. And this is a project that the TPO funded. It's a very landscaping and some lighting to help with pedestrians as they cross the road. It will also include raised median and a directional median to kind of help with the safety aspect with the interaction of vehicles and pedestrians. So the city's streetscaping project is really being merged into the resurfacing. 24 miles of I-95 from south of Malabar Road to north of Fisk. It also includes safety improvements such as widening shoulders, traffic signal enhancements at some interchanges, and guardrail improvements. And there are a host of other safety improvements in the scope of this project. It's $111 million, but this is for I-95 northbound and southbound. So they were a goes-with project, two separate projects, and I think they are being merged together as one project. So again, a lot of money coming into Brevard County, and these are due to cost increases due to the merging of projects. So we are asking for approval of our fiscal year 24-28 Transportation Improvement Program.
Motion
I move
Medina.
yes, ma'am.
Motion Medina, second Blake. Roll call vote, please, Zoe.
And my apologies, Councilmember Cole, I skipped you as well. You, okay. All right, so this is for Resolution 2502. Blake,
For my brother Medina, C.
Cole,
Yes.
Felix,
Yes.
Feltner,
Yes.
Forrester,
Yes.
Glass,
Yes.
Hanley, Medina,
Yay.
Minus,
Aye.
Robinson, Williams, Young.
Yes.
Did I miss any voting members?
For the record, Colonel Cole does not sleep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very, very much. Motion carries. All right, item C, adoption, the fiscal year 2025 list of projects. Sarah.
All right, good afternoon again. So annually, the Space Coast TPO adopts our list of project priorities, and this really is the guiding document that bridges our long-range transportation plan and master plan into the transportation improvement program. So this is the mechanism that we use to communicate to FDOT what projects are priorities for our region, and also what projects we are pursuing state or federal funds on. So annually, you adopt the list of project priorities, and then we transmit it to FDOT and work through the work program with them. When we're developing the list of project priorities, it's important that we're thinking interregionally. So I know everyone has their pet projects, but we really want to make sure that we're advancing transportation projects that are moving our communities and our region forward. And so we want to think about, we want to think from MEMS to MECO, our whole county, really what are the projects that are most valuable to us as a region. Our projects are ranked via two ways. First, we have a quantitative score that's 0 to 100. That is a very set criteria of points, and I'll review kind of those categories in a second here. And the secondary way that we can rank projects is via discretionary ranking. So committees and boards have the opportunity to request that a project be moved. So you could be like, I would like to move project 3 to project 1. And then, of course, the governing board has consensus on whether or not the project would be discretionarily ranked. Our projects are ranked via safety, linking transportation and land use, sustainability and resiliency, innovation, and multi-mobility. So these are the key emphasis areas that 0 to 100 points are built around. And you'll also notice that they mirror the governing board strategic plan. And so we're making sure that we're holding those core values completely through all of our planning processes. So what's new this year? So if you might recall, in May, I did a very lengthy presentation where I reviewed the entirety of the list of project priorities. I'm going to spare you from redoing that same presentation today and just kind of hit some highlights. So nothing has changed from the list of project priorities since the May presentation. So once again, we moved the intermodal station from planning into regionally significant due to it moving out of the planning phase and into design. I-95 in Malabar was specifically called out in order to support the PD&E and Palm Bay's pursuing the redoing of that interchange. We updated estimates, we updated phases for things that have been funded or have moved into a different phase, as well as also scores were updated based on the latest volumes and capacities and high injury network with Vision Zero. 2 new projects were added. These were both grant projects, and so they are not ranked. They are in our grant-funded section, and that's the Emerson Safe Streets for All grant that was already submitted via the City of Palm Bay, and then the Railroad Crossing Elimination Grant, which the NOFO just came out, and we are working with our consultant to develop railroad safety projects. It's not eliminating any crossings, it's improving crossings for safety. So as I kind of briefly mentioned, the process that we go through is it starts off with our annual call for projects. municipalities have the opportunity to submit applications. We evaluate and rank those applications, develop and approve the list of project priorities. Following adoption, I will submit the list of project priorities to FDOT, and then we will go through the process with them of reviewing any applications, vetting any new projects or updated projects, and then go into project programming. The work program will be developed. It'll be presented to you. Generally, that happens in December. And then projects will be implemented either via the local agency program or by FDOT. And with that, I would like to request a motion to adopt the fiscal year 25 list of project priorities.
Yes, Skip, go ahead. I can't read that.
I know you don't have the pages ready to show anybody, but on page 134, planning and studies, number 3 is what we always talked about, is trying to do something to keep the 520 Causeway from Merritt Island to Cocoa Beach from flooding. And I see across 3 columns, it's showing planning as a funded phase, but it doesn't have, I guess that's underway. Is that underway?
So we met with FDOT yesterday with their planning group, and it is under contract. And they are just now getting going and getting started. And so they are going to be looking at the corridor from all the way from US 1 to A1A, so the entirety of the corridor, and all of the bridges in between. And basically, what the consultant has been doing is kind of coming up with some thoughts and ideas of what could be potential alternatives. And then they'll be going and reaching out to Cocoa Beach, coordinating with the TPO, and other stakeholders. And yeah, and we can definitely make sure that they get with Mr. Willis as well. And so they're going to be coordinating with the stakeholders. There's going to be public involvement, but basically we're at the very, very beginning of that project.
Okay. So this chart, if it was updated as of today, there would be that number for the funded phase cost for the planning, because you said you have it under contract. You obviously have a number, right?
Yeah, I personally don't have the number, but FDOT should have it, and I
So
can
that
check the
would
gauging
go
report.
to update this chart?
I can totally update it before I transmit it.
Okay.
Yep.
Please. And then on the unfunded phase, it's blank, blank, blank. Is there a way to put the design into like fiscal year 2025 or 2026?
The reason that I left it blank is because we don't know if this project is going to go into a project developmental and environmental phase or a design phase next. You're looking at essential fish habitat, lots of permitting on whatever the project ends up being. So I'm leery to go ahead and claim a phase this early into a study because FDOT doesn't know what their next steps are going to be. And so I would hate to misrepresent what the next phase of the project
But that wouldn't mean that nothing would happen in 2025.
It wouldn't mean that nothing would happen, no. And we'll, as I said, we'll be closely monitoring the project as well as they'll be coordinating with you. And we'll make sure to, while we're working on our 2050 LRTP, coordinate with FDOT to make sure that we're expressing any additional phases that they anticipate at that time.
Okay. Because what hopefully we won't have any storms, we won't have waves and storm surge that wash out the causeway. And Secretary Tyler's not going to have to come over here with all his dump trucks that crush rock shrimp shells and fill it in so we can get at least something across that causeway.
I hope not either.
I've just seen it flooded already, and it wasn't even that bad a storm. So
Yes, and yesterday when we were meeting with FDOT, I expressed that same concern that you're experiencing.
okay, I didn't mean to take everybody's time on it. I just like to see the chart updated before it's transmitted. If you can get those numbers.
That's part of the same thing we were talking about with 528, elevating that causeway to get it out of some of that flooding, and at the same time creating flowways under the causeway to enable the water to flow back and forth and try to accomplish a couple of things at once. increasing the flood resiliency and increasing the water quality.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion, Glass? Oh, we have a motion, Glass, looking for a second. Skip, is that you? All right, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, presentations. Travis Hills, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will also try to be brief. Travis Hills with Kittleson presenting the project update on the Malabar Road PD&E study. So this PD&E study is a local agency program, otherwise known as a LAP project. It's using federal funding being administered by the city of Palm Bay. And we are working closely with FDOT to help us through the approval process as they review our documents for NEPA approval and as we work towards a public hearing. A little bit about this project for folks that may not know. The study corridor extends from the St. John's Heritage Parkway east to Minton Road. Currently a 2-lane road today, 4 signalized intersections at Krasner Drive, Bending Branch Lane, Jupiter Boulevard, and then the 2 signals to the east that are clustered at the Shopping Plaza and Minton Road. So the purpose of this project is to provide additional capacity improvements and address safety issues at the corridor and intersection level. There is a need from a transportation demand perspective. We have design year traffic that exceeds the capacity of the 2-lane roadway today, and it would also enhance access to the St. John's Heritage Parkway out to the west. A lot of improvements being made in the western part of Palm Bay and Brevard County. From a safety perspective, almost 650 crashes occurred on this 2-lane roadway between 2016 and 2020. No fatalities, but we did have about a third of those crashes result in an injury, 1 or more injuries. So on the traffic perspective, so what you see up here on the screen are the existing AADT's annual average daily traffic. Those 2020 numbers range anywhere between 7,000 and 16,000 cars a day along this 2-lane roadway. And then in the 2050, we're seeing those volumes almost double in our projections, between 16,000 up to almost 30,000 as you get to the eastern part of the corridor towards Minton Road. So when we perform our operational analysis, what you see up here, a lot of those E's and F's in the 2050 condition, that's with the 2-lane roadway. We obviously want to make sure that we improve those operations. When we widen that roadway to 4 lanes, we do see that a lot of those operations improve, both at the segment level and the intersection level, which is one of the goals of the study. So what does that 4-lane typical section look like? You see one of the typical sections up here. We have 2 travel lanes in each direction, 11-foot wide lanes with a 22-foot wide median. We also have sidewalks, wider sidewalks on the south side of the road. So there's a 6-foot sidewalk out there today, 5 to 6 feet, widening that to 8 feet in most locations along the corridor. And then we're proposing a 12-foot or 10-foot shared use path on the north side of the corridor, directly adjacent to the roadway. For folks that know the area, there is a shared use path or a wider sidewalk on the north side of the canal. That's outside of the roadway right-of-way. So we would also be proposing that shared use path to be directly adjacent to Malabar Road on the north side of the roadway. So then one more typical section to show you. This is near Jupiter Boulevard, where we do have the canal that comes to tight with the roadway. We are having to shrink the roadway a little bit by reducing the median width. And then you see there that we have the barrier protection for the canal that's directly adjacent to the roadway. And then we do have the 10-foot shared use path directly adjacent to the north side of Malabar Road. And then I'm showing that 8-foot sidewalk on the north side of the canal that's the existing condition today. So in the proposed condition, the intersection traffic control, as you see here, we have a few roundabouts along the corridor, proposing roundabouts at the St. John's Heritage Parkway, Krasner Drive, Bending Branch Lane, also at Hurley Boulevard, and then we're going to maintain the signal at Jupiter, add a new signal at Garvey, have a new roundabout at Maywood, and then maintain the 2 signals on the east side at the Shopping Plaza and Minton Road. So on right-of-way, the existing right-of-way is approximately 66 feet. It does go up to 112 feet around where that canal comes in at Jupiter. The proposed right-of-way is going to be around 102 feet, and it may go up to about 194 feet where we get into the canal, and we have some south side swales around that Jupiter Boulevard area. We do have impacts to 108 parcels along the corridor. While that seems like a lot, these are fairly minor minor impacts. And the city does own 33 of those 108 parcels. They've done a great job of advancing right-of-way acquisition to move this project forward, which is one of the reasons why the design was actually funded and is moving forward, hopefully early next year. Total right-of-way cost estimate is $2.4 million. Like I said, a much lower number than what we're typically seeing because of that advanced right-of-way acquisition. So the fun slide, how much is it all gonna cost? We're looking at about $110 million just for the roadway construction itself, 4-laning of a 4-mile-long roadway. Utility relocations around $10 million. We have some wetland mitigations. That right-of-way cost of $2.4 million. Design cost of $10 million. And then construction, engineering, and inspection, the CEI around $16.5 million for a total project cost of just under $150 million. So like I said, tried to keep it brief. Jack Freeman, who's here, he's the project manager. Once again, I'm Travis Hills, and I will take any questions.
Any questions for Travis Hills? Yes, Donnie Felix.
I'd just like to say thank you for sharing. I know you've done multiple presentations for us. Do appreciate the work you and your firm done on this particular project. Well overdue. Get the phone calls, get the emails all the time. We certainly appreciate, love to see this thing move forward. It takes a lot of money, so we'll take the support of the TPO. And Mr. Secretary, thank you. This is a project as well, just maybe can move up on your radar and as Ellis Road. Wait
a minute.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank
Appreciate it. Thank you.
everybody's involved.
All right, thank you very, very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, next item is Best Foot Forward Program update. Kinsey with Bike Walk Central Florida.
All right, thanks guys. I'm glad to be here today to present to you. So I am Vince Dyer. I'm the program manager of the Best Foot Forward program here in Florida. Kenzie, my coordinator, was supposed to be here today. She lives here in Brevard, but unfortunately could not make it last minute. So I'm happy to be here to present to you guys. So Georgiana already kind of shared the most recent Dangerous by Design report from 2024, showing that here in Brevard County, you guys stayed fairly consistent, a little bit of an improvement overall. Our slide is a little bit out of date as of a month ago. So you can see that Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville was number 12 in pedestrian deaths as of 2022, and about the same as now. Over in Orlando, number 8 in 2022, and moved down to 18, so a little bit of an improvement there. But the point is that when you look at this list, you see it littered with Florida communities, right? Lots of Florida in there, especially Central Florida. And we know that the weather is one factor there. We know that it's warm here. People go out walking and biking a lot. But also, as hinted by the name of the report, Dangerous by Design, our roads were not necessarily originally designed to move pedestrians around quite the same way that they're designed to move cars around. So that's something that we focus on. Back in 2012, it was kind of a crossroads there in Central Florida. Orlando was the #1 most deadly place for pedestrians. And so the county and the city of Orlando got together with us, Bike Walk Central Florida, to develop the Best Foot Forward program. And so since then, we've been working to try to make communities safer for bikers and walkers, which we'll get to in a second. So our methodology is based off of a study from 2012 in Gainesville. So this is a Florida-bred methodology. That study was also in 1998 performed in St. Petersburg, so lots of Florida background. It was repeated again in 2018 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and 2019 in St. Paul, Minnesota, using the same methodology that if you combine engineering, enforcement, and community education together and track the effect on driver yield rate, you can see consistent results over time with those three things together. So if you look at the graph, that's the study from 2012 2013 area. And so they did a variety of feedback signs, of enforcements, community outreach, and you can see that starting with a yield rate of about 30% of drivers stopping for pedestrians, over the course of that study, they got up to 70%. And we've seen some similar results with some of our specific crosswalks across the various counties that we work in. So we've been working mostly in Osceola, Seminole, and Orange County for the last decade or so. And FDOT recently recognized the job we were doing in those areas and have funded our initial expansion into Brevard, Marion, and Volusia counties to try to do this same thing here and see if the counties and the localities are interested in having us do the same type of thing we've been doing in Central Florida, kind of expanding out to the coasts in both directions, right? So we have a number of partners across education, enforcement, and engineering. You guys see listed there. And so we do a really good job of, we have staff kind of placed throughout the entirety of Central Florida here. I'm in Osceola County. I mentioned my coordinators here in Brevard. Our executive director is in Seminole. Our programs director is in Orange County. So you can see that we're kind of all throughout already, trying to hit all of these areas as well as we can. So the bread and butter of what we do is taking data at crosswalks on how often drivers yield to pedestrians. So obviously you could put a camera on a crosswalk and just wait, but you're not gonna get the data as fast by doing, compared to doing staged crossings. So we sent our data collectors out based on that methodology that I mentioned from Gainesville in 2012. Our data collectors will go out. They will not just jump out in front of cars, right? They'll put flags out at a safe distance based on the speed limit, put a foot into the crosswalk and wait to see what the driver chooses to do, whether they yield or whether they continue on, and then we track that data over time. The benefit of this for our partners is as we go through various interventions, enforcement opportunities, educational opportunities for the community, or different engineering upgrades, signs, markings, et cetera, we can immediately go back out, see how often drivers are yielding in response to those interventions, and then provide our partners with that data so they can see whether or not what they're actually putting in is working, right? It also helps provide just the justification for doing these improvements in the first place, because it's difficult for a lot of our public works partners to be able to act on anything without the data to be able to enable them to show that it is a need. In addition to that, we'll coordinate high visibility enforcements every quarter with the law enforcement partners. So the big benefit here, a lot of law enforcement partners might get grants to be able to do high visibility enforcements, and they might dabble in it a little bit, maybe try it out, but sticking to it is kind of hard for them. So they tell us that they really appreciate that we give them the window, we do all the media outreach and the high visibility aspect, we provide them with the educational materials, we'll help them set up the cone distances and things like that. We'll even service decoy walkers occasionally when needed. So that way it makes it really easy for them. We just give them the date range, we give them a list of crosswalks and they choose which ones to do. Makes it so simple for them overall. And so here in Brevard County, our last enforcement in May, you can see some of the locations that participated. We were at the Stadium Parkway mid-block over next to that government center in Vieira. So they had 26 warnings and citations handed out to drivers. When I was out there, they weren't really sure how I was gonna go the first time. Once we got started, they were immediately tied up in both directions, pulling over cars. And so Sergeant Gwinninger turned to me and he said, we should be doing this here all the time. And I was like, that's exactly the response I wanted. Cape Canaveral also has participated multiple times, a couple of crosswalks in Indian Harbor Beach. So we're glad to see some of our partners getting on board here. We have another one of these coming up here right at the end of the month. And so you can see some of the operation-wide statistics, lots of warnings and citations overall, lots of media placement. So we're trying to get the word out there to educate drivers and educate the general public. We'll also make annual countermeasure recommendations. So next month we'll be meeting with public works partners to discuss potential signs, markings, et cetera, that we would recommend based on the hundreds of crosswalks that we've looked at, taking into consideration the speed limit, the number of lanes, the residential versus commercial use of the area. And so all of those factors together, we make recommendations, we empower them with the data so that they can choose to make some of those improvements, and then we can track whether or not those improvements made a difference. And of course, we do community outreach as well. So we'll do a lot of tabling events out at community events. We do presentations for various groups. We'll also do presentations like this based on, who'd like to hear it. We've done local roads committee, the TPO boards, Board of County Commissioners. So we present in a variety of places to make sure that the community knows what's going on and that they can see the work that we're doing. And so I've gone over a lot of these numbers already, but over in the corner there, you can see that when our program started in 2012, out of the crosswalks that we were monitoring, only 17% of drivers were yielding to pedestrians on average, pretty low. Today, that number is up to 50% at the crosswalks that we monitor. So we're seeing good improvement in that regard. And that specifically is for crosswalks that are 35 miles an hour and under. 40 and over is still pretty similar, 2% of drivers yielding in 2012 and 45% now. So when we took that data, okay, and we compared it against a different source, right, because obviously, our data says one thing, but can that be confirmed by outside data? So we looked at the Signal 4 analytics data on serious injuries and deaths for pedestrians and cyclists. And you can see we had a peak around 2015, a few years after our program started for deaths and serious injuries. Since then, it's kind of gone down and leveled off. And so that's the bar graphs you're seeing is the deaths and serious injuries for Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County, where we've been servicing for that time. And then that line graph is what I was showing you, the increase in our yield rates over time. So you can see kind of the correlation there, that as our yield rates for our program crosswalks have gone up over time, the overall amount of serious injuries and deaths during that same time has gone down. So that's the type of thing that we're trying to bring here to Brevard County as well, in addition to the other counties that FDOT is funding within their high injury network over in Volusia, Marion, and then hopefully next year into counties like Flagler and Lake County. So I know that was a really brief overview overall. I'm sure there's a few questions. Again, I'm Vince Dyer, the program manager. This is our team overall. So if you want to contact us about questions, comments, if you're interested in seeing this in your area, obviously when FDOT originally had us come out here, they were looking at the county, but they encouraged us to reach out to the localities, the towns and the cities. We got a few bites. We have Indian Harbor Beach, Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach, Cocoa, so one more. Oh, Melbourne Beach. So are all participating this year. We're hoping that next month when we do our crosswalk selection workshop, we'll get a few more players. So if you're in any other area and you're interested in seeing your public works department or your enforcement agencies participating as well, by all means, please reach out to me, come to me afterwards, or if you'd like to ask questions now, I'll go ahead and open it up.
Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, on slide number 10.
Yeah.
Is that fatalities, just pedestrian fatalities, or does that include?
It's bike and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries. Good question. Yes.
I was going to say the difference could be the safety measures that have been taken for cars, so that.
Yeah.
An interesting statistic that we become much more safe driving at the same time, less safe walking.
It is crazy, right? Yeah, and so, and the numbers are very complex. There's so many data points to break down, pedestrians versus cyclists, serious injuries versus deaths. I know statewide we're seeing serious injuries come down a little bit, whereas deaths are either staying the same or going up. So there's a lot of complexity there. So just trying to show the data as best that we can. Good question, though. Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, guys.
It was a great report, thank you. All right, our last item is FDOT, Central Florida. Lorene Bobo. It's nice to see you again.
All right, well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me here today to share about our Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan. My name is Lorene Bobo, and I am the District 5 Safety Administrator for the Office of Safety within District 5. So, all right, there we go. So what I'd like to do is, Secretary kind of teased a little bit about our Safety Strategic Plan and our Safety Summit, and so I'd just like to share with you today about that effort and how we got there and what we've accomplished so far. Why a safety strategic plan? When the Office of Safety was created about 3 years ago in June of 2021, brand new office, while safety was always a focus of the department, there wasn't an Office of Safety. We just kind of did it where we did, design, construction, things like that. So by the creation of this office, we said, no, this is a really concerted effort. It is a refocus on safety. How do we touch it in everything that we do? I actually report directly to Secretary Tyler, not necessarily development, not necessarily operations. We work with everybody internally and externally to get to zero. So another reason why is in 2023, we lost, this number's actually 734 people on our 9 counties, on all of our roads, our state roads, our local roads, city, county. Those are people that woke up that morning, planned on going home. I'm gonna go home tonight and have dinner with my family if I have anything to do about it, right? Those people had that same idea and they didn't go home. And that's not okay. So as we started talking about this, I've relayed this story to Secretary. It was just go forth and conquer, get to zero. Okay, how do I do that? How do we do that? I thought of 1,000 different things that we could do. So we really just said, you know what? We need to drill down into what we want to get started on, and just one by one, just keep working on all these. There's not one solution. It's a lot of different things, and it's going to take all of us to get there. So then we said, you know what? FDOT has the unique opportunity. We touch every county, every city. We communicate with all of those different folks in our community. In Brevard, you may not ever have a reason to talk to anybody in Marion County. So what if we bring everybody together? We learn from each other. We're all moving in that same direction. And that's kind of where this idea of the safety strategic plan was born. So how did we develop it? We did not want to sit in a room and take our little collective brain trust. We've got some good minds at DOT, but we don't see everything, right? You guys are there, you're in that community directly. Why don't we develop this together? It is our plan. So we had several workshops over about a 6-month period. We started internally. We started with our leadership. Then we met with folks from all the different offices. We had folks from HR, our guys, our blue shirts that are working out in the field. We talked to folks in our contracts office. They don't design projects. They're not explicitly safety focused, but they have good ideas. Then we went on to our partners, folks like yourself. And that's those partner workshops that we did. We had 3 different ones. We have 9 counties. So we had Orange, Osceola, Seminole. Then we went out to Lady Lake and met Marion, Sumter, and Lake. And then we came out to here in Titusville, and that was Brevard, Volusia, and Flagler counties. So at these, I'm actually going to go back a slide. At these meetings, we were met for a full day, but we had different sessions. In the morning, we invited our law enforcement and our school representatives to come in. What are you seeing from your vantage point? Midday were a lot of our partners, and that's Bike Walk Central Florida came and joined us at those. And then in the afternoon, we met with elected officials, our engineers, our planners, and we asked them 3 questions each day, or at each session. What are we doing great that we need to keep doing? Second, what are we not doing so great? What do we really need to focus on that we're not focusing on yet? Or maybe we are focusing, but not as much as we should be. And then third, what are those wild and crazy ideas that we just aren't doing? Maybe you saw something in another country or another city or something like that, and you want us to work on that. We had over 450 unique ideas from those workshops. A lot of overlaps, a lot of commonalities, but there were also some different things, whether you lived in a rural area or an urban area and that type of thing. We took all of those ideas from all of those workshops, and we pulled them into the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan. Kind of grouped them in together, so you might have shared an idea, but you don't explicitly see your idea in this document. But it's grouped in there, and that doesn't mean we can't drill down as we continue to go on. So it's a plan that focuses on our safer street designs, but also changing behaviors. And most crashes, a contributing factor is behavior. Do we have a lot of work to do on our roadways? Yes. But if you don't put this down, I can build you the safest road, and you might still hit that person that was trying to cross in that crosswalk. It happens a lot. So we're focusing on kind of both sides of that. We're going to continue working on our safer streets, but we're also going to work on those behaviors. It's identifying those opportunities for collaboration. This here today, we're working together. We're all working together, with that same mindset that getting to zero is going to be daunting, but gosh darn it, we should be trying to get there. I personally can't think of anybody that I want to lose today, whether I know them or not. I know it's going to happen. We lose about 2 people a day in Central Florida. I get all of those reports, and they're hard to read. It's hard to see that somebody didn't go home to their family. This idea of getting to zero, it's not an FDOT thing. It's actually an international idea. Every community in Brevard County, you guys are ahead of us, right? You have already adopted Vision Zero. You have said zero is the only acceptable number, and that is awesome, and Space Coast TPO as well. There's a lot of opportunity for us to be aligned in those efforts. So we're not trying to replace those efforts, it's how can we work together. So it is an action-oriented 5-year plan with 1-year, 3-year, 5-year goals. This document is going to continually change as we continue to move on. It's a good starting place, but it is a live document. And again, it's collaborative. It's all of us working together. So this graph is just showing you, remember that compass that you saw earlier that Secretary showed? Communities are at the heart of everything that we do. Those people that we're trying to get to zero, those are our communities. By all of these things working together, that's how we're going to get there. It's going to take our schools, our law enforcement, our cities, our counties, our MPO, TPOs, our advocacy groups, everybody working together. So this is the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan. I did bring quite a few copies today. I think Georgiana's passed them out. If you would like a hard copy, I'm pretty sure that we've got some more following. Our website should be live in maybe next week. And so then we'll have that digital version, but if you would like a digital version ahead of that, I'd be happy to get it to you. We're also creating kind of a condensed version to kind of get a feel for what this document is about. The 3 main action steps, or the core themes, are increasing that collaboration, thinking beyond infrastructure. That's kind of that behavioral side of things. And then that continued focus on safety, and that's where that infrastructure component falls into. So it's great that we created this document. Huge, huge step. But how do we keep it moving forward? We are putting together a steering committee with folks from all across our 9 counties that are going to help us. Hey, there's a lot of ideas in here. This first year, let's focus on these 10. They will meet periodically through the year to see how we're progressing on those specific items. And then the following year, hey, do we want to keep working on these, or do we want to put something else into that mix? Councilman Willis, I believe that you're going to be helping us from this area, so thank you very much. Going to be kicking that committee off here probably in September, so really excited to see how that group is going to help us move forward. So like I said, we're going to assess what we've been working on, and then also what do we want to continue to work on. So this document was unveiled at our inaugural Central Florida Safety Summit. It was a really phenomenal event that brought together people from all across of our 9 counties with all the common goal of getting to zero. It was a packed house. It was a really, really great event. I've got a video in a minute that'll kind of help illustrate the event. What I was really excited about was the representation in that room. It was from all over. We had every county represented, every MPO, TPO. We had multiple cities and towns. We had multiple law enforcement and public safety in that room. And then our advocacy groups. You know, it wasn't everybody from Orange County. It was everybody from all over, which was just really, really exciting. You heard about our Safety Champions panel, and appreciate Councilman Willis for participating in that. What was really great about this panel is that they talked about things that were happening in their community. You know, I'm doing this in my community. And, you know, sometimes we don't pat ourselves on the back or share what we're doing because it's just what we do, right? But maybe another community hasn't thought about that. So that's a lot about what this is sharing those different ideas and go, we could try that in our community just by hearing that idea. And I noticed that Georgiana brought her Starfish Award that we presented. We had several different categories, and Space Coast TPO was presented with the Outreach Award. You know, we see a lot of different groups. There's great outreach being done by many, many, many groups, but Space Coast TPO really touches on so many aspects, and there's always something going on. So thank you to you and your team. You guys. Yeah. There's definitely a great example, many, many examples of ways to reach out to our community. So we're going to give this a try. This is our video.
This has been a lot of work coming together to produce this event, to help us fulfill this vision of creating and then walking, delivering, implementing a safety strategic plan for Central Florida.
It is really so wonderful to see all of you in this room today. We had this vision a few years ago of just bringing everybody together with a united effort, and here we are.
Every single effort that takes place to try to focus on getting to target zero is worth recognizing, and we know that it's going to take the efforts of many, many, many people, so thank you for everybody that has been a part of that to this point.
Vision Zero is an international movement to reach zero traffic fatalities. We collectively have to believe that we can get there, that we could do this.
With Joshua's tragedy and his death, he is going to be saving lives in this community. Every single day, your personal and work efforts are aimed at saving lives. Lives of our friends and family, but also the lives of those we've never met. So thank you. Keep up the great work.
See how DOT's operations, how we do things across the agency, will start to fundamentally change to align with these ideas that are included in this plan. So I'm looking forward to that.
Safety begins with me, begins with every single one of you. Thank you. So, like I said before, created this great document, had a great safety summit, but now what? What's that next step, right? It's all of us keeping that alive, that idea alive, and you heard me in there say, think about what you can do in your personal life. I mean, I know what I do in my job, but every day in my personal life, I'm also looking at how I'm saving lives. I never know how many lives that I'm saving every day by watching for that person. Maybe I see them walking down the sidewalk or riding their bike or something. I'm looking out for them so that I don't accidentally hit them. Talk to your friends, your family about wearing seatbelts, about anything like that, right? Because you want to see them again. Think about how you have influence on saving people's lives. So that's kind of that call to action, right? We're all working towards that, but what's that one more thing that you can do to save those lives? So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry I went a little over. And just a quick safety second, because it takes just a second to be safe. We are in the middle of kind of the 100 days of summer. That's not a really great time for teenagers, unfortunately. They're out and about with their friends and whatnot. Put that phone down, wear your seatbelt, because I want to see you home tonight. Have those conversations. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you. It's an excellent report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. You do such great work.
Any other discussions for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, wait, we have a meeting. We do not have a meeting in August. We do not have a meeting until September 12th. Same spot, September 12th. Now can I get a motion? Mr. Forrester, second, we're adjourned. Thank you.